Hey family, happy Thursday. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks Live at 5. And I need to, you know what I need to do. I got to share this on my other Facebook pages. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks and Cheryl Dorsey, retired LAPD Sergeant. Those are my other two Facebook pages in addition to the one that we're on right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and post that I'm live so that as many people as possible can join in. And why don't you do the same? Why don't you go ahead and share this on your timeline, create a watch party, whatever it is that will get me in front of more people. Do that. I appreciate you. Thank you in advance. For first-time viewers, I'm retired LAPD Sergeant, 20-year veteran, all in patrol, and I am an advocate for you guys. I come to you every week and I talk to you a little bit about whatever's trending in the news dealing with police matters and sometimes other matters. I give you an insider's perspective as an LAPD patrol officer and patrol sergeant. I try to explain police code talk when I hear it to better help you understand, and then give you some ideas about what may help keep you safe if you encounter a crazy ass. So that's who I am. That's what I do. I have a website for those of you who want to know a little bit more, and an autobiography. All of that information is available at www.sgtcheryldorsey.com. I also have a weekly podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, available on every podcast known to man, I think. Well, all the big ones: iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Yeah, you name it, I'm on it. Just look for Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, subscribe, like it, hit the notification bell, whatever it is that you need to do. So every Tuesday when new content is uploaded, you'll be first to listen. I talk about things on my podcast a little bit different than what you'll hear from me here on this platform. So do slide on over to podcast platform of your choice and subscribe to my podcast. Now, a lot going on today. Let me just start off by saying this, family. Thank you to everybody who's been so kind today. Those of you on Facebook have seen that we laid to rest a matriarch today. She is now an ancestor. And so thank you for your kind expressions of condolences for me and my family, and to my amazing, amazing family. You know I love you. I'm here for you, not just now, but forevermore. And so reach out to me if you need me. Phyllis, Tamika, I'm here for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about, Amber Guyger. Sean, what are you saying to me? I sincerely hope the rhetoric and story don't get mixed up and she's held accountable. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's talk about Amber Guyger and the whole, I was in the wrong apartment. Oh my God, I was in the wrong apartment. I thought it was my apartment. So, I started off this morning on the Law and Crime Network, just kind of narrating what was going on real time today in the courtroom. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what has been said this week, because for those of you who don't know, prosecution rested their case in chief. Tomorrow begins the defense. Now, it's been reported that Amber's going to take the stand. And listen, there's something about being all full of yourself and white privilege and just good old-fashioned arrogance that could get you got. I think, she may be falling victim to that. I don't know. I don't ever think it's good for a defendant to take the stand, because you'll do well, under direct with your attorney, but once the other side gets you, things can change up real quick. And from what I can see, I think that the prosecution has, done a pretty good job, Dion, to answer your question. I think they're prosecuting to win. Um, you love my hair, Dion. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think the prosecutor is, prosecuting to win, but, the jury isn't unknown. And so let's talk a little bit about what has happened this week. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, so for me, the bottom line is this. I hope the jury is focused singularly on the reasonableness of her action. Because if you give her, and I don't, but if you give her, she just messed up, she was distracted, she went to the wrong floor, Botham Jean's door was defective, coincidentally, how convenient, and it just happened to be slightly ajar because of condensation or humidity or whatever it is that causes the door to not latch properly, and she pushed the door open after she put her key in, however you put your key in a door that it doesn't fit, shouldn't fit. Let's give her that. Let's talk about the reasonableness of her actions. Now, we know that she was in uniform, and on her uniform, they showed pictures of her, and guess what? She had a taser on. So if, I get she's a civilian, she was off duty, but listen, we're never off duty. You can't unknow, unlearn, unremember training. And police officers should be rightfully held to a higher standard. So she's off duty. She's still in uniform for whatever reason. And don't get me started with that because you know where I'm going to go, right? She had a taser. If in fact she was fearful, why not use your taser and see if that doesn't take the threat away? Reassess the situation before you jump to deadly force. That's what police officers are trained to do. Even as a civilian, you're still a police officer and you're still expected to not jump to deadly force as a first resort rather than as a last resort. So that having been said, let me go back to some of the things that I've learned from watching the trial and some of the things that they've been sharing that are, considered to be evidence, because what I say isn't, but I feel real strongly about it. And so, let's start with the parking structure, because they showed in court pictures of the parking structure, and she parked on the 4th level. And they keep making a big deal about the fact that there's no way to know what floor you're on because there's no designation. There's no numerical numbers readily available. All the floors look alike. It's really hard to distinguish. Well, if you know that to be true, and they also reported that there's about 23% at some point, and I don't know what the time frame was, but 23% of the residents allegedly have gone to the wrong residence. Now, I don't think they were trying to say that 23% of the residents have been successfully able to enter another residence, but they've said that they've gone to the wrong door. So if the location is that problematic, wouldn't you just be that much more careful and cognizant of where you're going when you enter the building, because it is so confusing until you get your bearings right every time? Wouldn't you? I think it's reasonable. But nonetheless, when you enter the parking structure, when you get to the 4th floor, the way you know you're on the 4th floor by the pictures that they showed in court is that it's open. There is looks like a wall, if you will, that's maybe waist length high. I don't know, 4 feet high, something like that, maybe 4.5. And then you can look out into the sky. You can look out over the skyline, if you will. You can see buildings across the street. You could see street lights. You could see city lights. So you know that you're on the 4th floor. Contrast that with when you're on the 3rd floor, you are just facing wall all the way around. And you guys, anybody who's been in a multi-level parking structure understand what I mean when I say you just encounter walls. So as you're making this loop and going round and around, the 2nd floor, wall all around you, 3rd floor, wall all around you, 4th floor, half of a wall, and then there's a skyline. She backed her car into a parking stall. Now, let me say this about the parking stall, because again, aren't they assigned when you are in an apartment complex? I give you that there are so many that are open, but if you're going home, aren't you going to park in your assigned parking stall? So she backs into a stall, obviously not her assigned stall because she's on the 4th floor. As you're backing in, you're looking in your rearview mirror and you're looking in the reverse, right? Because you want to make sure that you don't back so far that you hit the wall. Maybe she had some kind of instrumentation in her car that showed her, you know, how close she was getting to the wall. But if you're like me, I want to turn around and look because I just want to be doubly sure, right? So if you turn around and look, you're looking out over this roof line, over the skyline. You can see the street lights. You can see the city lights. So all of that stuff was going on the 4th floor. And then, of course, we know that both of them had a red mat in front of his door. Now, she's only 5'3", so they were trying to say that, you know, because she's short, her eye level is different from other folks that are taller. And because she was on her phone and she was distracted with all the texting and sexting and phone calls and the possibilities of what might jump off later with old boy, her partner, that she just was distracted. To that, I say, this heifer wasn't too distracted because listen, she was driving home, texting, driving, talking. The records show that while she was at work, when you really want to bring your A game and be paying attention because you're at work and you're on duty and you want to make sure that you're safe at all times, she was probably listening to the radio like I had to do, talking to whoever she was working with that day, or texting and sexting, oh boy, back and forth, back and forth. So we know she can multitask, is my point. We know she can multitask because we've seen her do it. We've seen her do it when she's tired. We've seen her do it at the end of a shift. We've seen her do it under a stressful situation, because when she was making that 911 call and she was talking to the 911 dispatch operator, she was also texting old boy saying, hey, I fucked up. Hurry, I need you. I mean, I'm good, but if I'm on the phone with 911, I promise you, I'm not going to be sending text messages to anybody because I'm going to be singularly focused on this 911 call, because after all, this is very important information I'm trying to relay. I just possibly took someone's life. So why, in the midst of all of that, is she texting? Because she fucked up and she knew she fucked up. And she needed old boy to get over there and everybody else who ultimately came to help her formulate a story. And so let's talk a little bit about everybody that came, because there were, officers who showed up. The president of their fraternal order of police showed up, and, they were comforting her and probably trying to figure out, what are we going to say? What are you going to say? Here's what you need to know. It was shown that her and old boy were deleting text messages. Again, she's multitasking, right? She's talking to her coworkers about she just fucked up and deleting messages. So she can multitask. And it can't work both ways. Either she's this or she's not. Police officers, and I get everybody is different, but we're inherently trained to kind of pay attention and know where you are. I mean, that was a big thing as a police officer. You always know where you are. You know your location, because if you ever need to ask for help, you need to know where to have that help come. So, 1 minute she's a bumblehead and she can't remember, she can't see, she's not sure where she is, she's not sure who she's talking to, she's tired. It just doesn't ring true to me. And so we know that she wasn't too tired, because she'd been talking to old boy all night about what was about to go down when he got over to the house. If he was really going over to the house, she was planning. So having worked 10, 12 hours didn't preclude her from wanting to hook up So why should we then think that working 10 to 12 hours somehow incapacitates her to the extent that she can't drive 2 blocks home, traverse the parking lot, get in the building, and go to the right apartment? It just doesn't ring true. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when if she takes the stand. Let me just take a look here real quick. Zion, you said she knows all about the door and training as a peace officer, led her to go inside his home and put him at gunpoint on the floor and murder him. Yeah. Yeah. There was something said about, marijuana being in his system. We knew that, I knew, because they had talked about, again, so let me go back. They talked about, I heard early on, he was talking to his girlfriend, and he told his girlfriend that somebody from the leasing office had called earlier in the day. He was on the phone with his girlfriend. Somebody called from the leasing office and said something about marijuana was coming from his apartment. So we know that he smokes dope. Okay, he smokes dope. His sister on the first day admitted he smokes marijuana. He has some kind of a situation, and according to him, it eases whatever his problem is. So that's why he smokes marijuana. Okay. Autopsy revealed marijuana was in his system. And I think, because I told you that when the leasing office called in the middle of the day and they said what they had to say, I believe that they called Amber and told her, when you get home tonight, you need to go to a 1478 and talk to the tenant in 1478 about marijuana being smelled outside of his apartment, and tell him to knock that off, or whatever they told her to do. Now, the leasing manager has denied that she was working security, which they would have to do, because now if they don't, they're liable. And so, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but something is not right about that whole situation. I've already played for you on Monday or Tuesday in my broadcast another 911 tape that is out there, that exists. They have not played that in court. I think, this is just me, it's not evidence, but I think that the call that was played in court may very well have been a second call to 911. And in that call, she was saying, oh my God, I thought it was my apartment. Because it just seemed too contrived. It seemed too perfect. You know what I mean? She was huffing and puffing, yeah, but to keep saying that over and over and over, she never expressed any concern, any empathy, any compassion for the man that she just shot. She never expressed anything outwardly other than, I fucked up. I'm going to lose my job. I thought I was in my apartment. And she just kept saying it over and over, almost like robotic, like just keep saying it because maybe that's what old boy told her to say when she called him. Just say this, say that, right? Because, maybe old boy knows that she had the homie hook up on the rent. And maybe he knows that, sometimes they'll call her when, the person in 2B or 3C is cutting up and you need to go tell them to turn their music down. We'll never know. And, she's going to have to explain. She's going to have to articulate, if she takes the stand, with regards to the reasonableness of her using deadly force. And listen, I said this today on the Law and Crime Network, that I don't care how often, how steadfast she is in the fact that she believed she was about to lose her life. Based on what? Because there was a black man within close proximity to you? These white people need to quit saying every time they get within arm's distance or further of a black man that now all of a sudden they're facing imminent death. It makes no sense. It's not reasonable to say that she was facing imminent death. She believed it. Now, it's going to be very difficult to argue what's in her head, because if that's what she believes, who am I to say that's not what she believes? But if that's what she really believes, she has no business being a police officer. If you're in a room 20 feet, 25 feet away from a black man and that makes you think you about to die, you probably shouldn't be the police. How do you function day in and day out? Because I imagine in Dallas, she probably encounters a whole lot of black men that have a little size to them like Botham Jean did. And every time she passes a black man, does she feel like she's going to die? And if she feels like she's going to die, if she really believes that every time she gets within 25 feet of a black man, it should be a whole lot of more black men that are dead in Dallas. I'm just saying. So I don't know what's going to happen if she takes the stand. I don't know how aggressive the prosecutor is going to be with her. Some of the other pundits have been saying that they think that the jury may not be very sympathetic because of the fact that she just seems very self-centered. She seems all about me. Oh my God, what's going to happen to me? I might get in trouble. I might lose my job. And that too could be off-putting to a jury, but you just never know. You just never know. So I'm looking at your comments. And okay, Sean, so let me say this about the mat. I may be a little bit behind you, but I was saying this about the mat. Okay, so check this out. So there was a mat on the floor. Now you could see the mat. It was bright red and it was kind of half moon shaped. So listen, every female who's on here with me understands what I'm talking about, especially, you know, because she wasn't in heels, but I'm just saying, you know, we're very cognizant of where we step. And when you're walking and the ground all of a sudden becomes uneven because there's a mat under your toe, but not under your heel, depending on how, you know, far onto the mat she stepped, or it's on one foot and not the other, you should feel that your balance is a little off, right? Because you're standing on something. Something is under your foot. We know when there's something under our shoe, whether we're in tennis shoes or boots, or ladies, if you're wearing a pair of pumps, you know, when you step on something, you're like, oh, what was that? So for her to not know that that mat was there, for me, is problematic. If I were on the jury, I would have a hard time thinking that it was reasonable for her to not ever look down. Think about this. She's on her phone. She's distracted. She's texting and sexting. Oh boy, when you're looking at your phone, unless you walk around with your phone like I got mine in my hand now, unless you walk around with your phone up here, you're going to be looking down. She can multitask when she wants to, and she seems to do very well at it. Hey, Sheriff Belial, what's up? Sister girl, Rochelle Belial, everybody, just stuck her head in the door. And for those of you that are in Philly, you already know about Rochelle Belial. But in case you don't, she's running for sheriff, and you guys need to get out and vote for her. I believe the election is coming up sometime in November, Rochelle. Is that it? Feel free, sister girl, to go ahead in the comments and just put whatever you need to put about the upcoming election, because she's slated and on track to become the first Black female sheriff in Philadelphia. So you guys be looking for that name. Let me see. Okay. So I don't even know where I was. I got sidetracked. But nonetheless, I think, you know, the red mat on the floor was something she should have seen. And there weren't a whole lot of people with mats on that floor. And I don't know if there were any people with mats on the third floor, because they did a pretty good job of contrasting third floor versus fourth floor in terms of what was in the hallway, what you might see at varying neighbors' front door, outside of their front door. And then check this out. Because when she opened the door, she opened the door, they showed her apartment. Now, when you walk into her apartment, the first thing you see when you enter her door on the left-hand side is a wall. And she had pictures of her and some other people in a police uniform. That was in a frame. That was one of the things that you see when you first walk in. And then if you look ahead a little bit on the left-hand side, there was a little table, a very small table up against the wall. And beyond that small table was something, and I'm being stupid, but I'm gonna say it was like a damn TV tray. You know what I mean about a TV tray, right? So there was a small other little entertainment center. I don't know what you would call it. And it had a small television sitting on it. That's what was in her living room. Contrast that with what was actually in Botham's living room. Brother man had a 50-inch TV and it was on. He was looking at it. He was in his living room watching television, eating a bowl of ice cream, looking at a 50-inch TV. And you mean to tell me this heifer stepped in there and thought, what? It was September. It wasn't December. Did she think somebody had gifted her with a 50-inch television? What? Anyway, it just doesn't, it's just too many questions. It's too many what ifs, it's too many variables, it's too many exceptions. I mean, you know, everything almost had to align perfectly. His door was broken. There was condensation or humidity. She was distracted. She wasn't paying attention. She was tired. She entered the apartment and she didn't realize that none of the furnishing matched hers. The television was 7 times larger than that little thing she had sitting up in her house. And with all of that, she sees someone, and her very first and only reaction is to pull her gun out and shoot. And listen, that's not how police officers are trained. And so, like I said, hey, DB, what's up? Straight murder. Absolutely. You cannot unlearn your training. And, you know, we're trained, you know, if you can, take cover and concealment. Back out. If I came home right now and my front door was open, me being Tackleberry, some of you know what I mean, I'm not going in the house. I'm not going in the house. If I come home right now and my door is open, I'm not going in. I'm going to back up. I'm going to get on my phone and I'm going to call the local police and tell them who I am and tell them, you know, it's probably nothing. I'm probably overreacting, but could you come here and just clear the house and make sure it's good before I go in? That's reasonable. That's reasonable. And so I don't know how she explains it away. Oh, hey, Patricia, thanks for that. I look beautiful. Thank you. I don't know how she explains it away. And, you know, this jury is 5 Black, 5 Hispanic, and 2 something else, either 1 white, 1 Hispanic, or 2 white. I'm not really sure, but it's predominantly minority. Now, listen, you know, all skin folk ain't kin folk. So I'm not all excited about the Blacks that made it on there because I don't know who these Black folks are. And so that brings me to Brother Man, the lead investigator. His name is Armstrong, Texas Ranger Armstrong. He's the lead investigator. And this character got on the stand. He's the lead investigator. This is his case. He's pretty much running it. Everybody is coming to him. He's delegating. Folks are helping him out. You got people taking pictures. You got people, you know, interviewing witnesses. At the end of the day, everything will come to him. And he is responsible for getting all of this evidence, putting together a package. As the lead investigator, he's responsible for delivering a product to the district attorney for criminal filing. Well, Texas Ranger Armstrong, lead investigator, the one who took the manslaughter charge, got a manslaughter charge initially before it was upgraded to murder. He said in court that actually, let me make sure I got this right. He said, that there was no probable cause. He didn't see any probable cause that Geiger had committed a crime. He said that in his opinion, she had not been reckless, nor had she been criminally negligent when she shot and killed Botham Jean. Now, he said this foolishness outside of the presence of the jury, because this was something that was debated and discussed when the jury was out of the courtroom and the judge was trying to decide if she was going to let him say this foolishness. And thankfully, she didn't, because his opinion and his thought about what her intent was is not evidence. And so she wouldn't let him say it. But the fact that he even said it, once he said that, then his credibility barometer went down to like -7. He has none, because he's the one that put this damn case together. And now you're going to come in court. And just because he's a Texas State Ranger and she's a Dallas police officer, understand, and my LAPD family that are on here with me and others know, it's the culture. It don't matter what department you're on. It's the culture. Doesn't matter what ethnicity you are. It's the culture. And we already know that the Texas Rangers were giving her the homie hookup, because they let her stay out for 3 days, got her bail money together, took her to another county, and had her in and out in 30 minutes. So I don't have any great confidence because they put somebody whose skin complexion is very similar to mine up as a lead investigator. Was that supposed to make us feel comfortable? Were we supposed to feel good about that? Come on now, you guys know they don't have a problem finding a house Negro. They always have one or two. Like Samuel Jackson says, you know, in those credit card commercials, what's in your wallet? Yeah, they always have one or two in the station that they could go pull up, prop up, and have them say whatever the company line is, whatever the code speak is. We saw it here in LA some years ago when CHP officers straddled a black grandmother on the 10 freeway, the Santa Monica freeway, and beat her like he was a MMA fighter. And what did they do? They went and found probably the only black, I don't even know what his rank is. He's a CHP chief, deputy chief, commander. I don't know what the hell they call him over there. I don't know their ranking structure, but they found a house Negro to get on TV and tell all of us that when that white man straddled Marlene Pinnock and beat her savagely, that he wasn't sure whether or not he had a problem with it because all of the information wasn't yet known and there was going to be an investigation to figure it out, and all the double speak, all the code talk, all the where's my hat and cane so I can do a little, you know, two-step, right? I don't know if Armstrong is a house Negro. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying all skin folk ain't kinfolk. And he's the lead investigator. He put the case together. He took it to the DA, and then he got on the stand under oath, said there was no probable cause. She hadn't committed a crime. And in his opinion, she had not acted recklessly nor criminally negligent. So I'm done with with Ranger Armstrong. I'm done. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I hope she takes a stand tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. I will be up and in this seat on the Law and Crime Network again, talking about whatever goes on during the day and just giving, you know, my 2 cents. So I may come back to you tomorrow, depending on what happens. If she takes a stand and is, you know, a blockbuster day, you know, I may come back. I certainly won't wait till next Thursday to share that with you. But anyway, those are my thoughts, and that's where we are. And let me tell you what else is going on around the world. So, okay, let me talk a little bit about little Tink Tink, you guys, because I try not to mess with him. And but today, you know, he lost his shit today, and I was here for it. I don't know what's going to happen over these next few days with this whole whistleblower thing, but you know, I'm finally tuned and keyed in to this whistleblower situation because it is so reminiscent of everything that I went through, am going through with LA Unified School District. And so as you guys watch this whistleblower, wait to see what happens, because this person, whoever it is not known to him yet, Tink Tink, and he wants to know who it is. And now he wants to know who let him in on the secret. You know, it's reported, according to the whistleblower complaint, that this conversation and the transcripts from the conversation were put in some super secret drawer that it wasn't supposed to go in. It was supposed to go in the drawer with all the other vegetables, but they put this particular transcript of a conversation in a different bin, if you will. And so now little Tink Tink is trying to figure out who told him, because he said whoever told them, they should be put to death. They're treasonous, they're spies, and that's a capital offense, treason. So we've seen him fire people, right? We've seen him let McCabe go, like, 24 hours before he was supposed to sign on the dotted line and get his pension after he had spent a career as a federal government employee because little Tink Tink had beef with him. We know he's very, very vindictive and very punitive. And so I don't know what's going to happen with this whistleblower. But again, I've said this to you guys before. And, you know, when you come forward, it is not for the faint of heart, because they will come for you like the school district came for me. And so I'm just really curious to see, you know, how this thing plays out, because every time something like this happens, I immediately get on the phone with my attorney and I was like, look, is this something we could bring up when I go to trial? Whenever I go, because they keep extending my court date, but it's crazy. It's crazy. And so I'm here for it, and I can't wait to see. Now, listen, I'm okay with them impeaching him if they do a twofer, because he did the bitch move yesterday, and he said, well, what about the Christian? He was talking to Ukraine, and are you guys gonna get his call logs too? So if they want to go ahead and do a twofer, I'm all for it. That means Nancy Pelosi for president, because I really don't want to see little tink tink go and then we're stuck with the Christian, because he ain't nothing nice either. And if they can't get rid of the both of them, then I'll say just, drag out this impeachment until, next year, and then be done with him, 2 days before. That's just me. Okay, Rochelle, I'm looking at what you're saying. I have no opponent. I won the primary election. The general election is November 5th. Philly, I'm talking to you. General election is November 5th. Rochelle Belial is the only one on the ballot for sheriff, but I still want everyone to show up and show out in November for me. Thank you. You're welcome, sister girl. So November 5th, Philly, Rochelle Belial, the only name on the ballot, but still don't take nothing for granted. Don't sleep on her. She talks just like I do. Well, maybe even better than I do. And you need to make sure that she's the next sheriff in Philly. So Rochelle Belial for sheriff, November 5th. Okay, let's see. What else? Hey, Joseph, what are you talking about? I'm coming in late. What do you think about the defense violating the gag order that was issued by the judge? So here's what I heard about that, Joseph. And then I'll get back to the other trending stories. What I heard about the gag order is that the news media, whoever it was that did the interview with the DA, had actually done that interview before the gag order was issued. They put that interview out after the fact. And that's why the judge, didn't make much more of a big deal about it, because he hadn't violated the order. It was just that whatever the news station was, they released it after the judge issued the order. The actual timing of that interview was before the gag order was issued. That's the way I understand it. So I'm thinking that it's not going to be an issue. Right, Olivia? Who goes in your own house when the door is open? Nobody, right? Okay, Dion, you think Armstrong damaged the case? Steve, Armstrong's a coon. Okay, you said that, not me, sir. Let's see, what else? Who else is on here? Just going through real quick. Okay, so the other thing that's going on right now over in Dallas with regards to this whole Amber Guyger thing is that the activists over there are calling for Officer Martin Rivera, her side piece or her boy toy or her whatever you want to call him. They're calling for his termination. They want him to be fired because of the text messages and because of him and her deleting stuff. So, the fact that they were deleting messages kind of speaks to consciousness of guilt, right? What are you hiding? I would imagine they were hiding the fact that they were involved in a sexual relationship, because that could be problematic. He outranks her. If they were ever, I don't know, when they say they were partners, I don't know if they actually were partners together in the same car or if they were just partners on the same shift. I don't really know what the rules are over there about that, but, he was a corporal and she was not. So that doesn't necessarily make him her supervisor, but he certainly outranks her, and that could be an issue. So, and then, when you sending out dick pics, I don't care how strong your game is, that ain't something you really want out there, right? So, I get why they were deleting stuff. It may not have had anything to do with the whole shooting situation, but they understood that, the gig was up and everybody was going to know what was going on with them on a personal level. So they're saying over in Dallas that Martin Rivera needs to be fired. Now, I don't know that I subscribe to that. And, you know, there's protocol and policy and procedure and due process and all of that. So I'm not really sure if Martin Rivera is going to have to find a new church home. I'm just saying, I don't know that that's a fireable offense. Also, let's see. Okay, so that's that. So we're done with Dallas. Now, over in Oregon, there was a lawmaker, and this lawmaker, her last name is Bynum, and she was instrumental in getting a bill passed with regards to, you know, living while Black and folks calling the police on Black people when they're doing just, you know, stuff that everybody does. And in this bill getting passed, it allows the victim who is being racially targeted, if you will, or the victim of racially motivated 911 calls to sue whoever calls the police on them, and you can get up to $250. I'm not really sure $250 is enough to deter someone, but nonetheless, ironically, this Bynum, her daughter, she's 17, her name is Chrissy, and she was at a mall over in Oregon with a bunch of girlfriends, and they went to go see a movie in the mall, and they were going to see an R-rated movie, and they're 17, and I guess, or maybe they're 18, but one of them didn't have her ID. So because one of the girls didn't have her ID, they couldn't get in the R-rated movie. So they were sitting in the parking lot at the mall trying to figure out, okay, so where do we go now? When they get approached by, a mall cop, and he told them that they were loitering and that they needed to leave. And I think this mall cop may have called the real police on these young girls. And so now it's kind of a big brouhaha. The mall manager has gotten in touch with this Bynum. I don't know if she's a representative, I don't know what her title is, but she's a lawmaker. And so now the mall manager has gotten in touch with her and says that they are, quote, gathering information about the incident. I would imagine the mall cop may not be a mall cop for very long, now that he knows he picked the wrong sister girl to mess with. They tried to stick to, the story that, she wasn't racially profiled, and the mall manager says that, this is within their policy and protocol, and, they just want to make sure that it's a safe environment. And I guess if people are sitting around too long, that could make it unsafe, really, for other people. But nonetheless, he's gathering information, and they're going to be in touch with Miss Bynum over there in Oregon. So if you are in Oregon and you want to go to the mall over there, be very, very careful. Not sure which mall it is, but I just say anywhere in Oregon, that ought to keep you covered. Stay out of the malls in Oregon where they have theaters, and you should be good. And then there was over in Atlanta, a police officer who just recently was sentenced to 20 years in prison. And this officer, his name is Matthew Johns. And back in 2016, there was an incident with a 15-year-old kid named Travius Payne. And this officer, Matthew Johns, kicked this kid in the head, and he really hurt him pretty bad. And because of that, thank God this little guy didn't die. I don't know what kind of injuries he has and if they're long lasting, but former officer Matthew Johns is now doing a 20-year prison sentence. He was fired back in 2017 and recently sentenced. So look, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Things are changing, and officers are getting convicted, and officers are getting sentenced, in some cases to significant time, and in other cases, not so much. But, this is better than nothing at all. This is better than probation, like in the case of the officer in NYPD that shot and killed Akai Gurley, right? It's better than probation. So, so that's what's going on over in Atlanta. And then over in New Jersey, there's a police chief who is facing some pretty significant jeopardy. He is a former police chief over in Bordentown. And this guy is quoted, being involved in all sort of racial animus towards, black folks over there in South New Jersey, and was quoted as saying that the last hope for white people was Trump. That was one of the minor things that he did. He's also been caught routinely using racial slurs. He compared blacks to ISIS, and his name is Nusera. So now he is facing hate crime and assault charges over in a U.S. District Court in Camden. And there are some officers over there who are testifying, one of whom who's a sergeant, and he's a canine officer, and he has, along with a couple of other sworn officers, testified about this Nusero, this police chief Nusero, grabbing some young man by the name of Timothy Stroy, who was handcuffed at the time. He was in police custody, and then this guy took his head, and it says it slammed it like a basketball into a metal door jamb. So that's one of the significant issues that he's facing in the midst of this trial. While all of that was going on, and while things were being said, this officer, or this sergeant, Rohr is his name, Nathan Rohr, he recorded a lot of what was going on, probably in roll call or in the station. He has 81 tapes of his former police chief making inappropriate remarks and statements, and part of that is also going to be used in the trial, which is expected to last 2 weeks. So, maybe sometime mid-October, we'll know of the fate of the former police chief over in Bordentown, New Jersey. And then here locally, there were a couple of police officers who were off duty on different departments. This reminds me of an incident that happened on the LAPD some years ago, when there was an off-duty black police officer by the name of Kevin Gaines, and an on-duty white police officer who was working undercover narcotics, Frank Liga, who got into some kind of a road rage situation, and Liga wound up shooting and killing Kevin Gaines. And something very similar happened. There wasn't no one died, but it was a officer from the San Marino Police Department off duty, and another officer from Alhambra. And so I guess it was about 8:30 in the morning on Sunday, and the off-duty deputy noticed that there was a motorist that says driving erratically. So the off-duty deputy decided he wanted to go on duty, right? So he follows the driver over in the San Marino, which is a city right next door to Pasadena, California. And the off-duty deputy, pulled up alongside, rolled his window down, and was, about to let this other officer have it from Alhambra. And I guess the officer from Alhambra didn't know what the hell, this crazy ass is who's chasing him and pulling up all aggressive, probably next to him. So the Alhambra officer pulls out his gun and proceeds to shoot himself, I think in the foot. He shot himself in the car, and so he's got a minor injury, and now there's a whole big brouhaha about that. So listen, family, when you off duty, be off duty. Who the hell wants to, listen, come on now. Some of y'all know when we were on duty, we didn't want to do police work, right? How many hours did we spend driving around, ducking and dodging from radio calls, staying too long on code 7 or whatever it was we were doing to try to get the city, right? If we had to get them 10, 15 minutes at a time. And now these jackasses are off duty and they want to be the police. So for his trouble, no good deed goes undone. What is it? No good deed goes whatever. You know what I'm saying? He shot himself in the foot. So, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with these two now. But anyway, note to self, when you're off duty, stay off duty. And then there's a lot of back and forth going on right now over in Florida, because the sheriff, during that shooting at the school, the sheriff at the time, his name was Scott Israel, and he was, they let him go because of all the controversy with the families of some of the students that were killed in that school shooting. And now it says that there has been a special master who has said that seems like maybe they didn't follow orders. The governor, the newly elected governor, Ron DeSantis over there, one of the first things that he did was fire the sheriff, Scott Israel. And now it says, in a stunning rebuke, there's a special master who on last week said that the sheriff needs to be reinstated. Now, I don't know what's going to happen because they did hire a brother man, Gregory Tony. You've heard me mention that name before. Another one who got, skin folk ain't kin folk kind of thing. They hired him right away. And I had talked about this because it was reported in the paper that one of the parents of one of the students that was killed worked out at the same gym where Gregory Tony worked out. And I don't know if that had anything to do with Gregory Tony getting appointed. I'm just saying the father mentioned that as if to say, like he was responsible because Gregory Tony ultimately got the job. Now, when Gregory Tony got the job, the problem that I had with Sheriff Gregory Tony is that he couldn't figure out what to do initially with that white officer who had attacked this 15-year-old black kid when there was a whole bunch of them outside of a McDonald's some months ago. Well, Gregory Tony wasn't quite sure what to do, at least right away. He has since, I think, suspended. I don't think it's been completely adjudicated, but the white officer that slammed this kid's head into the ground over and over and over again was eventually suspended. And he's facing more disciplinary action, and I don't know exactly what that means. So I don't know if they're going to get rid of Gregory Tony and reinstate Scott Israel, but a special master, whatever that is saying they need to. Somehow they didn't follow proper procedure, and the suspension order should not have been adhered to. So I'll keep you posted and let you know. And then here locally, Costco. Remember that shooting where off-duty LAPD officer was in the Costco, and he said that this man who was supposed to be mentally challenged hit him, knocked him unconscious, and then when he came to, the first thing he did was get his gun and shoot 10 times, killing the man who had some mental issues. Family said his medicine had been changed and he was, not his normal gentle self. Shot and killed Kenneth French, wounded mom and dad, I believe, in the Costco over in Corona, California. Well, evidently the prosecutor has decided via a grand jury of 19 people that they're not going to prosecute the LAPD officer. There's some people that are on Twitter who have been tagging me like crazy people because they are really, really bothered by the fact that this LAPD officer is not going to be charged in the murder of Kenneth French. He was 32 years old at the time that he was shot and killed. And I have not been following it closely. But again, I'm not surprised because great deference is given to what a police officer says. And this officer said while he was off duty in Costco, he was holding his young child in his arm. And this guy hit him from the back and knocked him down, and he dropped his baby, and he was unconscious for however long he was unconscious. And it scared him and made him fearful for his life. And so his first reaction was to get his gun and shoot 10 times. Makes sense to me. No regard for background, other Costco shoppers, just what the hell? I got 10 rounds, damn it, I'm shooting 10 rounds. So I guess that's that. I think that's the end. Grand jury didn't indict, so I don't know what LAPD is going to do. They can handle that administratively however they want. So if I hear about that, and I probably will, because again, the people on Twitter who are bothered by this have been tagging me in a lot of their posts. So if LAPD doesn't do anything, and they may not even know, because remember, it's confidential, how officers are dealt with on a disciplinary matter. So I don't know what's gonna oh, no good deed goes unnoticed. Thanks, Dion. I know I'm a little late getting that, but thank you for that. Yeah, so I think that I think that's a done deal. Costco shooter, off-duty LAPD officer, grand jury did not indict. Thought it was reasonable, made sense to them. He was in fear for his safety and that of his family. And so that's that. So unless you guys have anything, I think that's it for now. I will see any of you who happen to join the Law and Crime Network on tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. on the East Coast. I will be on for 3 hours. The morning show is called The Morning Docket. And Law and Crime Network streams much like Court TV streams. However, Law and Crime may stick their head into a couple of other different trials and not just stay singularly focused on Amber Guyger. So I will be there talking about whatever's going on for the first 3 hours in the morning. And then after that, I am back over to Court TV. I hope Amber Guyger talks in the morning while I'm on with them. But if not, I'll either come back to you tomorrow night and tell you what I think about what she said. Cross your fingers, family. Cross your fingers. I'm hoping that Dallas doesn't lose their mind if this jury buys into her craziness that she really and truly thought she was going to die because she was within close proximity to Botham Jean. Because for me, that's it in a nutshell. I appreciate you showing me what the parking structure looks like. I get, red carpet, no red carpet. At the end of the day, once she entered that apartment, it was unreasonable for her to use deadly force. There were so many other things that she could have done, and she didn't. And for that, a man has lost his life, a mother has lost a son, and she should be held accountable. And so I pray to my God that she is. I'll let you know, what happens, and we'll do this again. So until next week, until next time, may not be next week, be good. No pulling over motorists who are driving too fast in your neighborhood, through your complex, on your street. Be good and be safe.